What's up, everybody? It's been a while. Happy 2026 to everybody. I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor. He's Jeremy Pink, and we welcome you to another episode of The Bottom Line on Sports. How was your New Year, bro?
It was good, but when do you think it's too late to tell people Happy New Year? Is it
January 31st.
you do you're a whole month. You're a month. So
It's
on
like it's
January 30th, if you saw somebody who you hadn't seen yet, you would say Happy New Year to them.
Happy New Year. You got 24 hours left.
Right.
That's like when do you take your Christmas tree down?
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, some
Yeah,
people leave it up until the end of the
yeah.
month.
I think it's totally appropriate because you and I have both been traveling or away, and I think it's totally appropriate now. But I think this is pushing it. I think this is about as late in the year as for me as I would do it.
We're going to
Yeah,
start the show with a little thing I like to call by the numbers. And so I have given you a list of 8 names.
you have indeed.
And now, those names are the quarterbacks still left in the NFL playoffs. And you, my friend, have been tasked with ranking those quarterbacks by salary.
Ranking by salary.
Yes,
Who?
2026 salary, 2025 salary. We want to know
Yeah,
who's
who's
the
getting?
highest paid quarterback left in the playoffs.
Okay,
There
so
is a tie for number one.
so I would look at this. So normally the salaries are done as so I would say that three highest paid would be Matt Stafford, Josh Allen, and Brock Purdy. Those would be my top three.
Matt Stafford, Josh Allen, and Brock Purdy would be your top three.
Yeah, I think
You,
those are
my
the
friend, would have one of three.
really.
There are two guys tied for two. I mean, tied for one. Josh Allen is tied for the highest paid quarterback in the playoffs. The number two highest paid quarterback is.
It's not Matt Stafford or Brock Purdy.
I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
I don't even know who.
Come on, think about it. My mom would say, use your head for more than a hat rack and a grease
Well,
pack.
okay, let's think about it. So it's not going to be Bo Nix and it's not going to be Caleb Williams because they're on rookie deals.
Now we're working with that Duke NBA.
There you go. There you go. The and Drake May is not going to be in there either. So those three. So we're looking at either CJ Stroud or Sam Darnold. Um, yeah, I guess CJ Stroud would be up there. I'm not sure.
I'll help you out, my friend.
Yeah.
The guy tied for the highest paid quarterback left in the playoffs is Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, well,
He's
Trevor Lawrence
making,
isn't in the playoffs. He's gone.
you know what? You're right. That's why, you know what? This is the beauty of podcast. I was
Yeah.
sitting up here looking at my list going, why do I have 9 names and there's only 8 spots? And it just dawned on me. Trevor
Yeah.
Lawrence is gone.
Yeah.
So you're right. Josh Allen's number one. Brock Purdy is number two. Who have you got as number three?
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford at 40 million is number three. You feel better about yourself now.
Well, I mean, I'm usually never wrong, so I was sort of stunned that I might have been wrong. Yeah. So,
Who's fourth?
of those, so let me. This is a good. I'm guessing it's either C.J. Stroud or Sam Darnold. I don't know which of those. I would. I don't recall. I can't remember if C.J. Stroud got a new contract already. I'm going to go C.J. Stroud as four. Or
No, you
if not, Sam Darnold's four.
should always go with your first instinct. It's Sam Darnold at 33.5 million.
Yeah.
CJ is still on his rookie deal. He hasn't gotten his new deal yet.
He is still on his rookie deal. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Okay. And so then it's just Caleb will be ahead of Bo Nix because Caleb should be ahead of both Bo Nix and Drake May. So
That
I
is
would say
correct.
Caleb would be next, Drake May would be next, and Bo Nix would be last.
There you go, my friend.
So I got
Uh,
6 of the 8 right. I don't know if it was
yeah.
CJ or Sam Darnold. Okay.
And so a real quick recap, Josh Allen at 55 million, Brock Purdy at 53 million, Matt Stafford at 40 million, Sam Darnold 33.5, Caleb Williams 9.8, Drake May 9.1, CJ Stroud 9.0 million, and then Bo Nix bringing up the rear 4.2 million.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Biggest bargain in the playoffs right now. We'll see. We'll see how they go and how they
Yeah, I mean,
move.
but it just shows you that the rookie being on if you're a halfway decent, if you're a good quarterback and you're on a rookie contract, that goes a
Yeah.
long way. That's really helpful because you can really get a lot of pieces around you. Uh,
Yes.
and
No
and
doubt
that's and
about that.
that's yeah, that's certainly what we're seeing. Certainly what we're seing this year. Do you think Sam Darnold's a bargain? He's
You
keep
know
in
what,
mind
man?
he's 28-6 the last 2 years as a starting quarterback.
Okay, this is a great conversation, and the reason why we do stuff like this is that they become offshoots of really interesting conversations to me. I think Sam Darnold is paid right where he should be paid, and
Hmm.
here's why: nobody trusts Sam Darnold. Like, there's nobody to trust Sam. That's why he didn't get 50 million. He got next tier quarterback money. Now we would all like to make $33.5 million a year, but for quarterbacks, that's second tier money.
Hmm.
Now, if he can take them to the Super Bowl, then he'll probably get a big raise next year. If not, and if he has one of those Sam Donald implosion moments, he'll still make 34, 35, 36 million next year, but
Hmm.
he'll continue to be on that rung below. And I think more teams are going to look with a discernment at their quarterback and go, okay, is this guy really worth 50 million?
Right.
Is he really worth it? Because we're not just paying people because it's your
Yeah.
turn. I think that thing is sailed because look at the teams in the playoffs. A
Yeah.
lot of big money quarterbacks sitting at the crib right now.
That's right.
They,
But
they either didn't make it or they're one and done.
I think what's interesting is if you look at all these quarterbacks, who play, Darnold obviously Darnold hasn't played, um, and nor who am I missing? Nor has Bo Nix. Okay, so putting them aside for a second, there was only one of those quarterbacks that I thought played a complete four-quarter game really well without many mistakes at all, and that's Josh Allen. If you look at every one of those other quarterbacks, I
Right?
thought Stafford was shaky.
Yes.
I thought Caleb had a rough first half. I thought CJ couldn't hold on to the ball.
He had
I
the
thought,
worst game of the weekend.
yeah, I thought Brock Purdy had a couple of like inexplicable turnovers. Um, but all of them, played, improved, except for CJ Stroud, all of them kind of improved in the second half. So I think that if Sam Darnold had that kind of game, if Sam Darnold had the kind of game that Brock Purdy had, or that even that Matt Stafford had, um, everybody would be all over him. Okay. He could have
Right?
that exact same game. Everybody would be all over him. No one's going to say a word about Stafford. No one's going to say a word about Purdy right now.
Right.
Purdy's a gamer. Stafford's a wily veteran. So I think the perception of him was formed so early that don't get me wrong. I wouldn't necessarily trust the guy, but I wouldn't necessarily trust a lot of these quarterbacks, you know?
Right.
And,
Well,
and I think his perception is very skewed negatively because of his first couple of years in New York. I really do.
oh, I don't think that. And yeah, but you also have to throw in the fact that he won 14 games last year. Minnesota was like deuces. They were like, we good.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
totally fair. That's
you know,
totally fair. I think if you gave Kevin O'Connell truth serum, right? It gave Kevin O'Connell truth serum, he would have kept him. He knew JJ. He would have kept him not for Sam Darnold per se. He would have kept him because he knew that
JJ
JJ
couldn't play.
McCarthy was not the right guy.
Yeah.
And,
It'll be
and
an
and also
interesting.
Seattle didn't want him. He was not Seattle's first choice either.
Right.
So that's
So,
totally fair. That's the evaluation, which that is a bigger indictment than almost anything else. Is that the talent evaluators and the top coaches didn't want him.
mhm. But he's got a chance to prove out that wrong. He's got a good running game. He's got an elite receiver, and he's got a great defense. So he doesn't have to win the game. He
Mhm.
just what? Don't lose the game, Sam.
Right. And we'll see. And I think that's the same for I think that's exactly the same for CJ Stroud. If CJ Stroud plays a mistake-free game, I think the Texans can go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I would not disagree with that.
Yeah.
On that note, let's keep it moving on to the NFL. Big news this week. Two of the longest tenured coaches in the National Football League are no longer here. Mike Tomlin steps away. My man John Harbaugh got fired by the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Man, did you hear what the owner Steve Bisciotti said about John Harbaugh this week? Today, or today would be Tuesday. He
Tuesday. No,
said in a press conference, somebody asked him, had you made the last field goal? You know, because they lost to Pittsburgh in the last game of
oh,
the
where
regular
Tyler Loop
season.
missed the field goal to win the game. Yeah.
Right. Somebody said if Tyler Luke makes that field goal, would John Harbaugh still be here? And Bisciotti, the team owner, looked right out into the masses and said, for another week. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, that is
it,
no love shown to a guy who gave you 18 years.
do you think, and do you think, based on, and I don't know if you've done any reporting or know people have done any reporting on this, but do you think that is indicative of the fact that Harbaugh had a bad relationship with Lamar Jackson or not?
No, I think
Because
I'm
I
not
do.
speaking. I'm not speaking about myself,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes when you've been in a relationship for 18 years,
Uh-huh.
you're like, hey, it's been a hell of a run.
Uh-huh.
It's a season. I need a new woman.
Right, right, right.
Or in this case, I need a new job. So
Yeah.
I think over 18 years, we had a good run. We had some great times, some great memories. A couple years, we'll have a share a bottle of wine and talk about the good old days. Hey, remember that time we did this? Remember that time we did that? But right
Okay.
now, you got to go.
Let me turn the question around on you a little bit. If Lamar wanted him to stay, would he still be there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my point. I think that there's an issue with, I think Lamar has to okay this either, explicitly or implicitly. And
Well,
If Lamar didn't want him to go, he would still be there. That's what I think.
I will throw a caveat in there. I think he may. It sounds to me like the owner didn't want him anymore for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And so I think Lamar has a vote. Lamar gets a phone call. Lamar might even get hey, come up to my office. Let's talk about this.
Yeah,
Tell me what you really think.
yeah,
You know, have a glass.
yeah,
Let's share a little
yeah.
cocktail. What do you think? Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm gonna take that under advisement. I'm gonna let you know what I'm gonna do. I don't think Lamar gets the full vote, but I think he has a big say in it. And I think it's clear that at some point, um, there was a disconnect between Lamar and Harbaugh and the offense and the team. But a friend of mine, Mike Preston, columnist in Baltimore, wrote, in my opinion, a scathing piece on Lamar Jackson a couple weeks ago. And whether you agree with the piece or whether you disagree with the piece, to me, is irrelevant. Here's what's important. As somebody who's been a beat reporter, somebody who's been a columnist, somebody who's covered the Cowboys for 30 years, you don't write the kind of story he wrote with the kind of detail he had if somebody high up in the organization didn't want it out.
Hmm.
Like you ask the questions as a reporter, and sometimes they say, man, there's some things I could tell you, but I'm just not going there.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
sometimes you ask the question, they go, uh, call me on my burner phone tonight. Here's the
Right,
number. Call me after 10. I
right,
got you.
right.
And so it doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. Somebody in the Ravens organization was like, I'm sick of Lamar Jackson. Let me tell you all the reasons why I'm sick of him.
So,
Now,
so,
it didn't cost him his job, but it's just out there.
so if you had to make a wager on where that information came from, did it come from other players? Did not directly? I'm just talking about where
Yeah.
the ultimate
No,
source.
I think it
Other
came from the front.
players, Harbaugh, Harbaugh's team, or
Uh,
somewhere in the ownership. If it's in those three
well,
areas, which is the
yeah,
most likely
I
place?
would say it probably came from somewhere in the front office
Really?
because it doesn't do the coaching staff any good to piss off Lamar, and you know the story's gonna piss him off. So now
Yeah,
maybe you think if a coach, maybe you go, we're gonna put this out there, that'll light a fire up under him, and we'll get this
yeah.
result. But for the most part, I think it's more of a front office story than a coaching staff story, and I certainly think the players rock with Lamar, so I don't think it's a player driven story. Um, but the bigger issue is you the reality is you don't know. And a quick aside, being a NFL insiders, big businesses these days, whether it's
Hmm.
Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter
Hmm.
or Pelissaro or
Right,
Garofalo
right, right.
at or Garofalo at NFL Network. That's big business these days. So I found it amusing that I think Ian Rappaport basically came out and said, Harbaugh's lost the locker room. And Schefter came out pretty strong because
Yeah, yeah,
normally these guys don't say, "Hey, what Pink put out there was wrong."
yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
normally just stay clear of each other.
Right.
And Schefter was like, "Nah, it's not right. He hadn't lost the locker room."
Uh-huh.
And here's my whole point because I know them both very well. Like for Schefter to say that, the bottom line is, "Hey, Adam, you don't know who I talked to for you
Right,
to come out and say my
right.
information is false." And here's the reason why, man. You've been a CEO of several companies.
Hmm.
I could come in and I could talk to 5 people in your company who don't like you,
Hmm.
and they could say, Pink is the worst CEO ever,
Hmm.
bar none.
Hmm.
And some other reporter could come in
But
and
by the
talk
way,
to five other people
by the
because
way,
you
in
got
my
100
case,
employees, and they go, Pink saved my life. He saved my career. He gave me a
yeah,
promotion. He's the
yeah.
greatest CEO ever. So they could both be right
Uh-huh.
based on who they talk to.
Uh-huh.
And that's the nuance of being a reporter.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's fascinating because when that story came out, it's like any sort of political story that comes out. You always have to say, okay, who, who leaked this? Is it
Yeah,
and why did they leak it? And it's sort of any, as you know, it's sort of any NFL trade story. You have to figure out, okay, who is this the agent that is leaking this story? Is it the team that's leaking this story? Is it another team? Whenever you read these stories, you have to look at it. I remember reading that story and thinking, who's going to benefit from writing, who's going to benefit from saying something like that about Lamar? And I couldn't see who's going to benefit, So that's
no,
why I took that story to be, that's why I took that story to be probably accurate because I couldn't
that's the
met.
way to look at it. I
Yeah,
think they wanted to light a fire on them and say, hey, here's the problem in general with many athletes. The Cowboys had it a little bit this year with Trayvon Diggs. They've had it a little teeny bit with Micah Parsons, but Diggs was a bigger issue for them. But a lot of athletes have it, and it's an issue to me with Lamar. And it's the reason why I think a story like this comes out criticizing him, which is this. If you pay me the big money as a team owner, I pay a player big money. There's a part of you that wants that player to do what? Be a leader. With this money comes great responsibility.
of
You just
course.
don't have to play. I
Hmm.
want you to be a leader. But guess what? And you, as a former CEO, know this. Everybody ain't built to be a leader.
Right.
No, it could be your top performer, your top salesman at a company, and you say, "Hey, I want you to lead the other salesman,"
Hmm.
and he's the worst leader ever, or she's the
Hmm.
worst leader
Hmm.
ever, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna let this other person lead because you can only take care of
Right.
yourself.
Right.
And so, but it's different when you're a quarterback. Like Lamar doesn't attend OTAs in the offseason. Like, dog, you're the freaking quarterback.
Hmm.
We need you here if for no other reason than to set a tone about the seriousness of this. Because if you don't show up, guess what? Well, yeah, we're gonna get the lower guys to show up because they know they don't have no juice. But it might be some other guys, some other starters would be like, Lamar ain't there. Why I need to be there? So if you're Lamar and you took the 50 million, you need to be a leader because you're the quarterback. It's the most important part of the team. You're the face of the franchise. And he doesn't want to be based off of his actions. And so that to me can always be a conundrum between a coach and a player when you can't get your quarterback
Yeah.
to be the face of the franchise that you're paying him
Yeah.
in part
I,
to be.
it's why I asked that question at the beginning because when I looked at that story and I thought about it, to me, that story came from Harbaugh's team because, and I'll tell you why. And again, this and $3 will get you a cup of coffee. So that's what it's worth. This is just me speculating. But as you read it and you look at that story, to me, you know, I think there probably was some sort of underlying issue between Harbaugh and Lamar anyway.
Right.
Harbaugh wasn't whatever was happening, communication wasn't working. You started to see that in even things as simple as like the injury reports. It was clear that Harbaugh had no idea how injured Lamar was. You knew there was
Right.
a communication gap between the two of them. I think it was kind of his way of trying to say to Lamar, look, you're the best, you're one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We have a tremendous opportunity as an organization to do well because the rest of our division stinks this year.
Right.
This was a way for him to get that message to Lamar, is what I thought. And I think once that story came out, and then you started to see the play at the end of the year, I thought Harbaugh's days were numbered. That was sort of my read of it. That may be completely wrong, but that's kind of my interpretation of that story and then what happened with Harbaugh. And I think it's also interesting you point out about Bishotti. I think you were quoting saying that Harbaugh had, had Tyler Luke made the field goal, he would have 1 week,
Right.
one more week. Um, I think Bishotti kind of knew that too. And that's why, even though they had this 18, 19-year relationship, I think it was over. That's my
Uh,
read. Yeah.
Mike Tomlin stepped away, did not get fired. My theory, just mine, is that he's sick of operating without a quarterback. I told people in Dallas a long time, for years, especially when people say Dak Prescott overrated, move on, go find another quarterback. My question is always who?
Right. Quincy Carter.
Chad Hutchinson. But here's the deal. When you get on the quarterback journey, once you're on that journey, there's literally no telling how long you're on there. You could be on there like the Packers. They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. They ain't never even been on the quarterback journey since. But their journey was what? From Bart Starr in 1970, early
Yeah.
70s, to Brett Favre in 1990. They
Right.
went 20-something years
Yeah. Yeah.
without a quarterback.
Uh-huh.
Then you got the Colts. They basically went from Peyton to
Andrew
Stack
Luck.
to Andrew Luck, but now they're on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is,
Well, hold on a second. You don't like Duke's Daniel Jones? Yeah. So,
hey, out of respect for you and your NBA, I didn't say anything about that.
yeah. Anyway.
So man, when you look at it, I looked at it in Pittsburgh because he doesn't control the GM, the players in Pittsburgh. They got a distinct line of separation: ownership, GM, coach. Now they work
Yeah.
together, obviously, but
Yeah.
the GM is picking who he wants, and Mike is making the best to do it.
Yes. Yes. I think all of those points are good with one caveat.
Yes.
If Mike Tomlin was an offensive-minded coach, would he have had a quarterback? And the answer is, I think yes, because
Who would it have been?
he as a coach would have put pressure on the front office and said, I can't win without a quarterback. But when you're a defensive coach, you think you can win without a quarterback. And I think that's
Funny.
yeah, and that's kind of my interpretation of what happened there. Again, I don't know if that's right, but I do think if you were
Well, they tried to get one when they drafted the guy out of Pitt at 21,
Kenny
who's
Pickett.
who's now on his third team in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, but
But that
again,
was trying to force it.
yeah, Kenny Pickett was a classic kind of first round reach, like EJ
Yeah.
Manuel was, where a team was in such desperate need of a quarterback that they reached and they went early. And also Kenny Pickett played at Pitt and they
Right.
kind of knew him. He played in the same building and they thought it was a much more calculated risk. But then again, he was Kenny Pickett, so he wasn't, he was not, a first round talent by any means. He's probably a decent enough backup quarterback, but he's not a first round talent. But all of that said about Tomlin, I mean, the fact that he had such a good record with such mediocre quarterbacking shows you this is a really good coach.
Yeah. And that's taxing, man. That is hard to win like that. And I think he went 60-40 over 5 years. No, that's 100 games, so that's not the right number.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, he was several games over 500 without a quarterback the last 5 years. Been in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and I think he may have felt a little lack of appreciation in Pittsburgh, where we haven't won a playoff game in X amount of years.
Yeah.
And the question to me is always, and I haven't followed the Steelers closely enough to know,
Mm-hmm.
like, were they supposed to win some of these games? You know what I mean? Like, and I throw everything back to Dallas. Dallas is the only number 2 seed to lose to a number 7. So yes, they were supposed to win some playoff games.
Right.
But the way Pittsburgh has been playing the last 5 years, they're always slipping into the playoffs, or they've got a road wild card. I don't know that they were supposed to win in the playoffs. It'd be nice to win, but
Mhm.
I don't know if they were favored and lost. Who expected them to beat the Texans last night? Now maybe you didn't expect them to get beat 30-6, but who
Yeah.
expected them to beat the Texans?
Yeah. Nobody. Nobody. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. Yeah. No, it was, they were clearly, I'm just looking at, they were clearly the worst team in the AFC that was in the playoffs.
yeah. They only got there because the AFC North sucked this year.
Yeah, same with the Panthers, and yeah, same with the Panthers in the
They
NFC.
won
I
a
mean,
bad division,
yeah, they
and
were in a bad
credit to
division.
them.
Yeah, they won a bad division, and what's remarkable though is that they won a bad division that had Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in it. They won
Yes,
it. So
wow,
yeah, so that I think is pretty amazing. So what happens to the Steelers next year? You know,
bro. Number one, it depends on who their coach is. I think it's one of the best jobs in the NFL available. Maybe we'll do that next week. We'll rank the available openings.
you think the Steelers is one of the best jobs available?
Yeah, for one reason and one reason only. What's the
Job
reason?
job tenure?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can go there and build it properly because I'm not going to get fired in 2 years if
right.
we go 7-9 and 6-10. So yeah, it's a like uh somebody, I can't remember who, said, "Oh, the Steelers should reach out to Marcus Freeman like everybody does at Notre Dame to see if he wants a job."
Right.
If I'm Marcus Freeman and I want to play, I want to coach in the NFL, then that's a job I'll take because that job comes with security. These other jobs, you get fired 2 years. Now it's like, damn, Notre Dame was a great job. Now I got to go find another job that good.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wants to coach in the NFL, the Steelers' job is the one I want because I got time to build it my way. It's a cultural job. Outside of that, I wouldn't take another job if I'm Marcus Freeman. If he wants to coach in the NFL, and I don't know that he does.
Okay,
But
this is where you and I will differ pretty strongly on this.
good.
Um, I think Marcus Freeman would take if you look at I think if Marcus Freeman was offered the Baltimore Ravens job, he would take it in a heartbeat because he's got a quarterback. I think if he was offered I would even say this, if the reason Jim Harbaugh went to the Chargers is because he had a quarterback, you know?
Yeah.
Um, the reason a lot of these coaches are making moves and the reason you're getting, the reason Ben Johnson went to the Bears because he had a quarterback, you know? So I think that, yes, the Steelers culture is good. I think having a good quarterback trumps that culture for any coach because
Uh,
chances are you have a far less chance of getting fired in your first few years if you have a good quarterback, even if you're in the Steelers organization. So you're telling me a guy who shows up on the Steelers and the Steelers stink for the next couple of years because they don't have a quarterback and they're, 6-11 and 5-12. You think he's lasting more than 2 years? No chance. Even at the Steelers, no chance.
well, I
I
don't
think.
know.
Yeah.
They I think you make a good point in terms. I think the Steelers are loath to change coaches, so they give you time. They'll give you time to put your 5-year plan in place. Um,
You think it'll be as many as 5 years? That's interesting. I think I think the NFL right now, if you don't look, the
I
number
think they're
one,
different
yeah,
because they're a family-owned team owned by the same.
I
This is how they
agree with
grew
that.
up. This is how they grew up. This is
Yeah,
what
I
they
agree with
know,
that.
and so I don't think they're changing. But you make a good point when you talk about Baltimore because Baltimore's done the same thing. So there's not a lot of change over there. They kept Harbaugh for 19
If
years or 18 years.
if I was Marcus Freeman and I was offered the Ravens job, I would take it in 10 seconds right now. I
If you
think
want to coach pro football,
if you want to coach pro football, yeah,
right?
that's a difference. Yeah,
And I don't know
that's
if he does, but
yeah.
but yeah, I can do that. I also prefer black and purple over black and gold. That's just me though.
Well, there you go. It's yeah, it's a much better fashion combination.
Mike Tomlin, how good a coach is he?
I think he's a great coach. I really do. I think that
Now we throw that word great around quite a bit. Now is he a great coach or is he a good coach?
it's hard for me to say because I think that I think in the NFL specifically, the coaches are a function of their quarterback as much as anything else, you know?
Facts.
And he's had when he had a quarterback who was good and who was actually, kind of taking the game seriously and Roethlisberger had like that 4 or 5 year period where he was actually like, really taking the game seriously, working hard, and he was a great, they were great teams. He won a Super Bowl. Second, he didn't have another quarterback that was any good, or Roethlisberger was in his, ending his career. He's managed to keep the team above 500. Now, all of that said, I think that actually became, I think that became almost too defining for him. I
Right.
think it became something where the organization was like, look at this guy. He can keep the team above 500 even with lousy quarterback play. I think he would have lasted longer and done better had they completely ripped the thing apart, rebuilt, found a quarterback. He had a couple of losing seasons. So to answer your question, he made a lot of the talent that he had around him, and
Yeah.
he was able to win a Super Bowl with a good quarterback. So I think he was in the last, you know, 15 to 20 years. I think you've got Andy Reid is probably one of the top, is going to be in the top. But again, he had the best quarterback. So that's again, you got Andy Reid, but
That's quarterback, brother.
Andy Reid won with lousy quarterbacks too, you know. And so I think Andy Reid's probably the top one. Um, you know, and then I guess you look at probably Belichick as the other one. And so those are probably the great coaches. And I think the next tier is probably Tomlin. What do you
All
think?
right. Um, I think he's a really good coach. I challenge myself on this whenever I'm calling somebody great. I go, okay, now let me wait a
Yeah,
minute. Is he really
it's
great
a good way to look at it. Yeah.
or is he really, really good? Because like I said, Tom Landry was a great coach, So Bill Parcells was a great coach. And so I think you have to the sign of a great coach, and we'll how about this? I think Tomlin is really, really good. If he can now take a year off, because I think he will, because here's a caveat to him. Because he stepped away, his rights are still owned by the Steelers. So if you want to hire him, you got to get him some draft picks or something.
Yeah.
You got to trade
For
for him.
two, I think it's 2 years, right?
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
trade for him.
Hmm.
So I think he'll sit out a year, and then maybe they'll trade. I think the same thing happened with Sean Payton. They had to trade for him to get him
Hmm.
ultimately to
Hmm.
Denver.
Hmm. Hmm.
So here's the thing: like Sean Payton had a great run with the Saints, and now what's he doing in Denver? Having a great run.
Yeah.
So it seems to me Sean Payton was a really, really good coach, and now he's moving into the great territory because he's putting the same thing together somewhere else. So if Mike Tomlin can go somewhere else, put the same type of run together where his team
Yeah.
is competing for the championship in the Super Bowl every year
Yeah.
for 8, 9, 10 years, because he's only 53 or 54. Then I think we can elevate him to great. Like Andy Reid's a great coach. Why? He did that thing in Philly.
Totally agree.
Went to KC, did the same thing. Ran
Totally.
off a bunch of titles.
Yeah. Totally agree. Again, I think that Sean Payton is a really, really good coach who had a really, really good quarterback in Drew Brees. He
Right?
won over essentially the same time period. He won the same number of Super Bowls with Drew Brees that Tomlin won with Ben Roethlisberger. You know, um, I think that the Broncos this year might be the weakest top seed I have ever seen. I would say that the chances of the Broncos going above 500 next year are not great. And I think this is very much an anomalous year for the Broncos. And but we'll see.
I was
Maybe
gonna say,
I'm
good
wrong.
thing is it won't take long to figure that out.
Yeah, they're gonna. I think they'll get bounced this weekend. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Um, and you look at even look at a coach now like Ben Johnson. I think he made a smart move because he went somewhere and said, okay, I think this is a decent quarterback and I can probably win with this quarterback, and let's see what happens. So it's so hard to disconnect a coach from a quarterback that it's really hard. It's really hard to see. I look at somebody like Liam Cohen this year in
Right.
Jacksonville. You know what? That seemed to me like one of the maybe the best coaching job of the year. If you can win with Trevor Lawrence, um, we're it,
I
I
like
thought
to
he did a
throw this
very good job
example
this year.
out there, man, because I think it's true. When you get an offensive coach, and I compare it obviously because I'm in Dallas to Norv Turner showing up with Troy Aikman. Troy
Right.
Aikman is he the guy? Do we need to trade him? Do we need to get another quarterback? And then Norv Turner showed up and he's like, oh no, Aikman's the best thing ever because it was the perfect coach for him and his mentality with a system that fit his skill set. And then when you just look at the history of the NFL, much of what you're talking about, it's okay, because I've been saying this a lot recently, is Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, Norv Turner. And the beauty of it is these guys and Liam Cohen, is he going to be for Trevor Lawrence what Norv Turner was for Troy Aikman?
Hmm.
And here's the thing though, these guys are head coaches. Norv was an offensive coordinator, which
Hmm.
means they ain't going nowhere.
Hmm.
If they are what they purport to be this year, then they're going to be around for the duration of those guys' careers.
True.
Another 5-10 years. Whereas Aikman only got 3 years with North, and
Y-
then it was a collection of busters.
Can I tell you? I
Half the
have.
learning exam easy.
Can I tell you? I have one quick uh, Troy Aikman kind of personal story. Is I
Really?
remember seeing Troy Aikman his rookie season at playing the Giants here in the Meadowlands,
Right.
and they were awful his rookie season, but I got to see him play in person. And you know how when you see, and you know this better as well as anybody, when you it's like you're watching an AAU basketball game and you just watch an AAU basketball game and you see this one kid out there and go, "Oh my God, that kid is
Right.
so much better than everybody. Like he's the best player on the court. His team might lose, but you know that kid is the best player on the court." I remember watching Troy Aikman his rookie season playing against the Giants in Giants Stadium and watching him in person and going, he may not win any games this year. He's the best player on the field by far. It was like that was sort of my recollection of Troy Aikman. I had that. There's very few professional athletes who I've seen where I had that reaction to. Troy Aikman was one, and Magic Johnson was another one. I remember watching Magic Johnson in person, and this I'm obviously dating myself, but watching Magic Johnson in person and thinking he's so much better than anybody. And the only other person, interestingly enough, the other person who I had that reaction to, not in person, but watching on television, was whenever Deion Sanders would return a punt. It was like it
Yeah,
was like it was a totally different experience. But that was the experience I had with Troy Aikman when it was his first year.
that's interesting. I was if and you guys can all do this, obviously. If you want to see Aikman and come away really going, wow, what you got to do is go to YouTube and it'll take you 15 minutes. But go to YouTube, call up the 1985 game against Miami where he broke his leg. So he only played 28 snaps.
Oh, this is was he was at Oklahoma then, right?
Right. He
Yeah,
only played 28 snaps. And there was some talk the first four games like we need to get another quarterback. But just look at those 28 snaps against Miami and you go, oh my God.
right, right.
Because that Miami team got a bunch of NFL players on it, and he is easily the best player on the field
Oh,
because
interesting.
he and it that was over the years I've talked to some guys and they're like, oh, that was his coming out party, and the broken leg just ended it because that was the only game where it looked like Oklahoma had a clue on offense because they threw it more than they had been. And so they had this wishbone that you couldn't stop anyway. And then they were doing the play action off the wishbone, and it became like, oh, we got a problem. Because, dude, and I remember this because I'm not name dropping here, but I saw this, a year or two ago. And I sent him a clip. I sent him a text, and I go, "Dude, you were one bad 12-letter cuss word."
Hmm.
And I sent him a clip when he goes 50 yards for a touchdown running.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you figured that out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Took me a while. Yeah.
And he sent me a text back saying something like, I did run the option a little bit in high school. But no, dude, go take a
It
look at that one day when you get
yeah, I will.
15 minutes.
I will.
And
I will never forget watching him and going, "Oh my God, this was like he was
yeah,
so much better than." It's one of those experiences you only have every once in a while. And I had the same thing watching Magic Johnson play in person. I was astonished how much better he was than everybody.
now I know a lot of y'all are wondering this, and we're going to get to it. But we need to. Well, we need to do this. So we've talked a lot. Bottom line is, for me, we haven't figured out if Mike Tomlin is great, and we sure as hell don't know if John Harbaugh is great.
Right. But bottom line for me, you can be called a great coach, but only if you have a great quarterback.
See, I like that. Nice and
Yeah.
succinct.
Yeah.
We're not going to ignore Ohio State getting their butt kicked by Miami, okay? It just took us a minute to get here. But nah, we ain't going to spend a lot of time on it either because that was last year. No, I
Yeah.
guess it was this year. Was it last year or this year? I
That
guess it
was
was this year. I've
was it
already
this
put
year?
it out of my memory.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's sometime recently.
All I know
They
is it was the only game this year that I haven't seen Ohio State play because I was out of the country.
lucky you.
So I watched some highlights of it.
But let me tell you the great
Yeah.
decision I. This is a great decision I made. They played that game at AT&T Stadium, a mere 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and 20
From
miles from my house.
Casa Taylor. Yeah.
There you go. And all day, all week, I was trying to figure out, am I going to the game? Am I not going? If my son were here, but he had gone back to school at Ohio State, I'd have gone because my son is here. I'd go to the game with him.
Hmm.
But by myself, I was trying to figure out, do I want to go? Do I not want to go? The week started and tickets were like ridiculous. So that I wasn't even thinking about it. And then a friend of mine called me 2 days before kickoff and said, "Hey, I'm gonna take my boys to the game. Are you going?" I go, "You taking your boys? You got that kind of money these days?" He goes, "Have you seen the tickets? They're cheap." I said, "What is cheap?" You could get a ticket, a decent seat, not a great seat, but a decent seat for $65.
And is that because that's good that to me implies that one of the two teams didn't travel to go to the game, right?
Let me tell you, I asked somebody from Ohio State, I said, "Why is this happening?" And I watched this seat go from like $500 to $113 to $69 to like $50 on game day. Here's what somebody from Ohio State told me. They said, number one, Ohio State fans thought, number one is it was their third straight year they played in Dallas. So coming to Dallas ain't no big deal. It's not like, hey, let's go visit Dallas. We haven't been there. No, we didn't
Right.
see it the last 3 years.
Right.
Number two, they figured Ohio State will beat Miami, and we need to spend our money going to see the Georgia game
Uh-huh.
and the
Right.
national championship game.
Right.
And then the third point was, if they don't beat Miami, then we damn sure didn't need to spend the money to go watch them lose.
Right. Right. Well, so we talked about this briefly, but the thing that I think is kind of kind of fascinating, coincidental, ironic, whatever you want to call it, is that the national championship game is between Indiana and Miami, and those are the only two losses on Ohio State's schedule. And
Yeah,
I think that for Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, that was the biggest game Indiana has played in maybe 50 years, 100 years. Certainly the biggest game. And I still think that's the biggest game that Indiana is going to play, even when they play the national championship. That was their biggest game in that program's history for literally
right.
for the last 50 years. For Miami, that was the biggest game Miami's played since they lost to Ohio State in the national championship, 23, 24 years ago. And what
Yes.
happens when you play against a team like Ohio? Well, Ohio State these are the biggest games that these two programs have played for years and years and years, and that's what Ohio State goes up against all the time, and that's what they went up against this time. And I, I have this whole theory that Ohio State lost the national title when it was the fourth quarter. They were trailing 13-10. It was 4th and 1. They were on their own 5 or 6, I can't recall. And they decided they said, let's kick a field goal to tie. Let's not go ahead. Second they did that, the season was over. It was over from my point of view because it showed me that Ohio State's kind of mindset and play calling had reverted to what it had been prior to the
Last year.
last 16 games. Yeah. And I thought
Right.
it was over. I thought Ohio State should have beaten Indiana. I thought they were the better team. They had the game won. They didn't play particularly well, and they still should have won that game. And I thought it was over after that. And then I think that by the time they showed up to Miami, uh, I don't think they knew what to do because they weren't expecting to lose. And Miami as I said, this is the only game of the year that Miami played where they didn't commit stupid penalties, where they weren't make really, where
Yeah.
they just played an
They played the best
atypical,
game.
yeah, they played an atypical mistake-free game. And
Right.
Ohio State was, from what I could tell, was lethargic, didn't have a particular game plan, was shocked that they were finally getting pushed around for the first time in a long time. They were getting beaten on both sides both sides of the line on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And to your point, we talked about this too. You made the absolutely right point about Ohio State. All they needed to do was have one stop against Miami at the end of the game, and they probably still would have won that game.
Yeah. So
So
it
anyway,
was a great season, but it's a disappointing end to a great
yeah,
season.
it's disappointing. And I think that Ohio State has a tough schedule next year. They're at USC, which I'm going to go to that game. My daughter's at USC, so we're going to have a big extravaganza at that. They're at USC next year. I think USC is going to be tough. They play Oregon, they play Texas. Um, they got a few other tough games on their schedule next year. So they have 4 or 5 that are the games that they could potentially lose next year. And I don't think they're going to have a 11-1, 12-0 season again next year. I don't.
No, I'd be shocked if that happens.
Yeah.
But I'm always about just play. You want to be kind of like Miami was this year. You want to be peaking going into the playoffs.
Correct. Correct.
So as long as you get to the playoff, it doesn't really matter how you get there, as long as you're playing well, getting there, and then you can ride that momentum. I think anyway into a better performance. So
Yeah.
we'll
So who do
see.
you think
But
who do you think's going to win the Natty? You think Indiana's got them?
yeah, I mean Indiana's been great, man, and I said this about playing Miami to my son. I sent him a text before the game, and I said they can't win if we don't help them. And then we promptly went out there and helped them.
Hmm.
So I think it's the same way. Miami can't win if Indiana doesn't help them. And the problem is Indiana makes so few mistakes, they don't help you.
Right.
You got to get whatever, you got to earn whatever you get. I think, it'd be interesting if Miami could hang around and take them into the deep water and see if they can deal with pressure. But they had that against Ohio State, and they did it. The only difference would be this time they're the favorite, not the underdog, and so there's some pressure that comes with being a favorite if you're not running away from them. And I think Ohio State felt some of that against Miami, where it's like, it's getting away from us. And, it's just a whole different mindset. And we'll talk about that at a later date about whether, and maybe we'll talk about it next week, whether Indiana can sustain what they've done because next year they're the hunted. They've never been the hunted.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
That's a whole different mindset.
it's interesting. I think Indiana's likely going to win. But I still think that there were a lot. Nobody believed in Indiana until the Oregon game. You know, I really think that's the case. And now people are believing in Indiana. They're a heavy favorite to beat Miami. Um, if Miami can keep the game close, and to keep the game low scoring, they have a chance for sure.
I think Miami's got to do what they did against Ohio State. They got to throw the first punch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Ohio State won last year. They were throwing the first punch every game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were coming out boom, 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 and you're
Yeah.
like, Jesus! By the time you look up, it's 10-0, it's
Yeah.
14-0, and
Yeah.
you're playing from behind the whole time. And I think Miami's got to throw the first punch. If they can do that, they have a shot. But it's gonna be a rough go for them, man. Indiana's playing at a high level, and they're doing all the things you're supposed to do to win football games.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think Indiana's, likely going to win, but I do think that I think it's a good way to describe it. I do think that if it's a low scoring game and Miami can control the line of scrimmage, which I think they can, I think they can control the line of scrimmage against any team. Um, that's going to be a severe test for Indiana. And where you saw it is where Indiana has struggled the most this season. It's when they played against a team with lots and lots of top athletes and five-star players, which is Penn State and Ohio State. And they didn't run away against either of those teams. It was a tight game to the end, and you know I think that the skill positions on Ohio State are better than Miami, but I think the actual lines are probably better on Miami than Ohio
Offensive line
State.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, Ohio State's offensive line really. I watched some of the highlights of that. I mean, you had guys like whiffing all over the place. It was, and by the way, against Indiana too. It was
Yeah.
Ohio State's offensive line really struggled against Indiana and Miami. Uh, but in any case, yeah. So I think look, I I will actually be flying home from Columbus while that game is on.
Yeah.
So so
Look
I
at you.
will try. I think I'll be able to watch the end of it, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what happens. We're not in it, so who cares?
Yeah. But you know
Uh,
who I'm having dinner with on Sunday night?
yeah, it's allegedly my son. So
Yeah,
this is
AJ Taylor. So there you go. So
all right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us once again. Happy New Year. Enjoy what's left. What's left of the month. He's Jeremy Pink. I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor. We'll talk to you next week on the Bottom Line on Sports.
all right. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody.